Hello, everybody. This is Peter Svidler, and I'll be doing about 90 minutes of Banter today. There will be very exciting Banter Blitz Cup action more or less immediately to follow this, so there's a bit of a time constraint. Once again, as usual, thanks to everybody in chat. Just let me know if you can hear me, see me, and all those things, and we'll start actually playing chess. Battlegrounds or Arena today. I actually played both. Drunk Duck. I'm an absolute potato at Battlegrounds, which annoys me greatly because I mean, I haven't played anywhere near as much as the top streamers have, but to be so useless at the game I actually spent a decent amount of time trying to master is very, very annoying to me. But I do play it together with, watching TV and watching streams and not taking it very seriously. So that probably explains at least some of it. Audio good, video good. So yeah, let's start playing then if we have the all clear from chat. And I should probably also say hi to Twitch. I don't know if there's anybody there, but if you are there, yeah, I'm not going to annoy Jan by logging in as myself, so I'm going to be pretending. For one stream, GM Jan Gustafsson will actually know the emotes and will be able to converse in the correct manner in the Twitch chat. Anyway. Chess. And as I mentioned, I will be starting as usual with the somewhat higher rated challenges, but I will take some below 2K challenges as well. And we start with Najdorf. I'm interested to see if people will actually start playing the Rook G1s and the Bishop D2s and all these things, which would worry me greatly, frankly, if they happened. You should follow some good channels so Jan can learn some Twitch culture. Well, yeah, and also no. Why did I play e6? I don't know anything here. I was actually planning to go knight bd7 and then I didn't. So Queen c7 is a way to kind of bail out here to hope to avoid at least some of the theory. I'm wondering if I can play 5 here without losing. It will probably transpose to some I mean b5. But I guess if you play Queen c7, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Also, I should at some point stop allowing bishop takes f6. This is horrible. I should be playing knight bd7. I should have played knight bd7 way earlier than this. This is me. Yeah, this is a hugely, I mean, very, very poorly played sequence by me. This is not how my position should have looked by this point. I will try to soldier on bravely, but I have a feeling even something like knight takes e6 might just be winning now. Having played Queen c7 in and of itself is not that horrible, but yeah, and this is obviously also an issue. Yeah, this is a nice first game to start the stream on. I think we are now forced to play 5, and then basically I wasted a tempo on Queen b6, which did absolutely nothing. It's not completely lost yet, but yeah, clearly I've been a bit amiss here in the way I treated this. What I think about the Bishop d2 move that Magnus played in the Spanish, I think it's very playable. I mean, Jan actually knows a lot more on this topic, and Jan was very insistent live on air that it's quite strong. And on topics of current Ruy Lopez theory, I think these days, in particular, with all the work that Jan put into his e4, e5 series, I think we should be trusting Jan a lot more than we should be trusting me. My knowledge there is definitely a little bit outdated. I've actually kind of stabilized here. I also really want not to blunder knight d4, knight c6 somewhere, which is why I'm playing king f8. I should have taken on d2. I'm really, like, my autopilot is really malfunctioning so far. I should have snapped taken that knight. But in general, I think my opponent allowing me this, actual security on the king side with h4 and bishop g5 is a misplay by him. But had I taken on d2, I actually would have liked my position quite a bit. And here it's very questionable if it's good. But my opponent kind of, as long as I don't blunder rook takes g5 and f6 check, which is kind of bugging me. This is also not a good move because he can play rook g4. I really am not playing at all well so far. Let's go back. Rook h4, rook g5 was worrying me a great deal. Maybe I can do this. If he takes on f4 now, the knight will... Yeah, this is not that bad because I can install this knight here and it will be very, very... Do I have to worry about that rook sacrifice? Probably not. He could have tried preparing this sacrifice by playing rook e1 first, but I wasn't that worried about that either. Knight e4 is an annoying idea, but once again, I think I can more or less safely ignore it. In particular because I have this wonderful square on d4 for the queen. And yeah, allowing me to get this much control over the dark squares must have been a mistake. And now we should be more or less completely winning. There's some issues with the a-pawn, but really they aren't very big. And obviously, if blunders continue, my position continues improving. But all in all, I mean, queen c7 exists, but somewhere around here, I need to start playing knight bd7 and transposing to mainline theory, because allowing bishop f6, in particular playing bishop b7, is completely suicidal here, because I also make his play with f5 a lot stronger. The bishop has to be here. The bishop has to support the pawn on e6. So bishop b7 was one of the arguably passing in this position is better than bishop b7, and definitely something like knight b7 is like 10 times better than bishop b7. You played really well up to a point, Milk Hunter. You did seem like you've lost track a little bit at some point, but I really like the way you approached the opening. So yeah, well played to you. Let's see, what else do we have here? But yeah, on the subject of bishop d2, I think it's a very serious move, and also clearly the moment Magnus plays something and wins a convincing game, such as he did against Nikita, people who weren't aware of the bishop d2 move, or perhaps thought that it wasn't that important, will now obviously start treating it a lot more seriously. e3, we've seen this even in the Wijk tournament in particular. Yeah, queen b3 is a bit different. Queen b3 is bishop d2 c5 is what could have happened in one of the Wijk games this year, where I think Wesley played this with white against Fabio, maybe the other way around. The inclusion of queen b3 makes the instant c5 counterplay slightly more difficult to arrange, but you can still do it this way. And I'm now more or less prepared to play c5. I'm slightly curious my opponent didn't even consider playing c4, c5 himself in this position. But, I mean, I'll take it. As in, not that I'll take on c4, but why didn't I take on f3? I think actually maybe it's correct not to take on f3 now that I look at this position. because this bishop is actually kind of important. But I will take now because the very large difference, obviously, is that now I get to completely ruin his central structure, and I can immediately start some counterplay on the queen side. Without all that, I think taking on f3 is often not that great. That's nice to hear, Dr. Vortex, and I appreciate the kind words. Even here, I have to be very careful about not blundering d4, d5, and not landing in some kind of a difficult situation. But my counterplay, my kingside counterplay should be faster in general. Not blundering the queen with bishop g5 is important, which is, luckily I did see that this was coming and was able to prepare for it. And now we've more or less assumed control over the squares we wanted to control. I can even maybe go knight d5, but I think knight f6 cannot be a mistake. And all in all, I'm pretty sure that my opponent has probably, this is not the position he wanted to get. It's still not that horrible. You can take on f4 and play queen b3, e3 and try to stabilize. But obviously, now that I've assumed control over the dark squares on the king side, and d4, d5 did not happen, it's a very comfortable position for me. I can win a pawn on e4 here by taking on first on e2, e4 I guess, then on g2, and then on e4. I can also win an exchange. That's a very strange move my opponent has just made. I can win tons of material in at least 2 different ways. And it's kind of saddening to do it, but like it's a full exchange or a full pawn. I don't know. Like it's so like I really don't like exchanging this knight for anything, but it's just so much material. It feels wrong, but I guess it also feels wrong for him to continue. And yes, his position is bad, but honestly, there was a struggle for me to trade the knight on the 4-4 rook. It's a very beautiful knight. But my point was, if you take on f3 here and you play c5, white obviously plays d4, d5, and this is a completely different position because white retains control over the light squares, and this is a mess. Whereas here, obviously, it's a very different situation. Okay. There's a challenge from somebody called Always Blame the Mouse, which, as someone who has blamed the mouse in over the years, is a challenge I feel I have to accept. Glad to see you ditch the cup for drinking straight from the bottle yesterday, Kappa. Yeah, it's I couldn't really figure out how serious Jan was about being annoyed with the with the sound of pouring water, but I decided to kind of be on the safe side and just take his words at face value and go from there. I think the point here is not e4. Ivan Ivanishevich actually in the World Blitz took on c6 in this position against me, which I suspect might be at least part of the reason why white plays this setup. Although this is like the Old English, which also probably is perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, I quite like this now. Now that I look at this for white, I think it's quite sensible. a6 is a weird move, but I want to play bishop b3, knight d4, and I want not to have to worry about knight b5. This is basically the reasoning for a7, a6. I am silently correcting your grammar, says Z London. My grammar, or just grammar in general? How do I rate today's England win? It's the biggest England away victory for 9 years, I read on Cricinfo, so I'm obviously, as an England supporter, I'm obviously very pleased. Also, there's a number of young players coming in right now which appear to have very good fundamentals and might actually play for the national side for a long time to come, which is good to see, because we needed some top order to replace Strauss and Tryskothic. And basically ever since the Strauss-Tryskothic partnership, there has not been a solid partnership at the top of the order, pretty much. And that's a while. That's taking, I mean, we're talking like 10 years. So play King's Indian, please, says Yeti to 1002. I will try. I will try. If there are specific opening requests, I tend to at least attempt to honor them, because I really, by this point, I play all openings equally strangely. Yeah, and as for this position, White probably should play something like bishop f2, because I think at some point this knight on d4 has to start getting traded. And you obviously have to sidestep the fork. In similar positions in the closed Sicilian, there's sometimes play connected with e5, g5, knight e4, but here black is way too well developed to try any of that. And I'm reasonably okay with this development. Although, actually, why did I take with the pawn? I'm really not switched on today yet. It's, I could have just taken with the knight. Why have I, what am I doing here? Also, knight b4 is, I mean, there is a point to it, but it's not a valid point. I'm trying to stop the knight from getting to g2, but yeah, a5 is actually a very smart move by my opponent, although I will continue now that I played knight b4, I will continue fighting to preserve it, because the threat was quite clearly queen b3 driving it away. But yeah, bishop takes d4, cd4 is among the most ridiculous things I've done in a while on a chessboard. Like, you always keep the long diagonal open, not block it with your own pawns. It's just bizarre what I did there. Locking my own bishop on g7. It's there's absolutely no justification for taking with the pawn there. I'm still sad about that Vichy game, says Benedict. Yeah, hi Martin. And yeah, that was it really. It's probably because that is so fresh in my mind, but it really brought back the moment I was doing that commentary live as well, when Vichy lost on time against Danish in Kolkata, effectively destroying his chances to qualify for London. And it's just so painful to watch Vichy do poorly for somebody who has respected him and treasured him. I mean, I will sound extremely emo, but I am kind of emo on this subject. Allowing g4 and f5 is obviously somewhat double-edged, but I think with the bishop on e3 I'm not going to get mated, so I'm not that concerned. I can also just lock everything down by playing, I don't know. Let's put the rook on an open file for the time being. And yeah, f6, once again, what my opponent is doing is sort of sensible, but the thing is, the bishop on e3, like, this is a diagonal on which white queen needs to be to give mate. And rook f3 now actually blunders bishop takes g4, so I'm winning. But as a matter of, like, in general, I just play king h7, and I'm so very safe on the king side here. Then, like, nothing bad will ever happen to me, as long as I control the c1 h8 diagonal. And now we can start just sort of crashing through. There's no longer really any need to pull punches. I can even take this guy. I can also go knight f2 check and take that guy later, because now the queen doesn't even get to the g file. This is sort of the point. Like, it looks like there's a threatening pawn on f6 around my king, but The rest of the pieces don't really have anything to do with the kingside attacks. So, as a matter of fact, it will be black here who will be giving mate along the g file in short order. Just blame the mouse, Peter, says Gakos. Yeah, I was planning to, but then my position improved, and I no longer really had to blame anything for anything. Apparently, I played Always Blame the Mouse before. I did not remember that username. Okay, let's take some lower level challenges. And hello, Drunk Duck. Or not, as the case may be. Ah, it's my move. Okay. Oh, senility strikes again. So what is my quote-unquote repertoire in Nightbot is actually incredibly strict. I've seen that before as well. Like yesterday, I think somebody in Twitch chat wanted to post a fan code for his study. So he copy-pasted a fan code into the chat and got immediately muzzled by Nightbot for posting a string of characters, which I thought was quite funny in a way. This is a line I used to actually play with black as well as with white, and I used to know a little bit of something about it, but that was some time ago. Sachin Roy says, Peter doesn't even know white moves first anymore. How can you expect Vishy to beat Fabi? That's a very good point, well made, yeah, I think. Also, let's have some fun, maybe? How about we have some fun today? What's my bet on Firouzja Carlsen? My bet on Firouzja Carlsen is probably draw. Frankly, Firouzja is extremely solid with white, but also, beating Magnus at the first time of asking is going to be extremely difficult. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm not even artificially hyping this up. I am genuinely extremely excited to be there for when they first play each other. I also knew something about something at some point, says Beta29. Yeah, that's a feeling I get a lot these days. That this is something I used to know something about at some point in my life. Very, very familiar feeling to me. Do I think I would be plus EV betting on chess matches? This is something I've actually... I made a conscious decision not to do that at any point. Like, I don't know if I would be a winning chess bettor, and I know people who have been doing that successfully for a number of years, chess professionals. But it kind of coincides neatly with the previous topic we kind of discussed on the stream today, namely cricket. Because in cricket, an active player who gets caught betting on cricket just gets banned for life instantly, no questions asked, even if he's betting on not the matches he's involved in himself, even if he's, let's say, betting on himself to win, which should not, negatively impact his performance or do anything bad. He just gets snap banned by authorities if he does that. And I understand this is, a precautionary measure more than anything else, and perhaps a slight overreaction to events that happened before. But I can definitely see why this would be the position of the governing body. And I just thought it feels slightly weird I am definitely not judging people who are doing that. It is not currently, as far as I know, illegal in chess. And since it isn't, people are perfectly, entitled to do whatever they decide to do in that manner. But for me, I just thought, no, I shouldn't be doing it. Knight a2, I think, was a bit of a mistake because, very importantly, the knight on b4 wasn't actually hanging after something like queen e6, because the bishop on e3 would be hanging, or queen e5 even. I think misplacing your knight like this, it will be very difficult to rescue it later in the game. I'm still not sure I'm doing well, to be honest, but I feel a lot more confident about my position now that the knight is on a2, because I feel that I should be able to corral it, so to speak, and win it later in the game. After bishop b7, it's still frankly anybody's game. Now that I look at it, it's just a very messy position. I can get what probably is a good endgame, but once again, feels a bit meh to be allowing an endgame here. I probably don't have a better choice though. I did not even see queen c6, frankly. I thought queen d5 was supposed to be the only move here, but queen 6 makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I did not see that coming. Let's take... I can play rook e1, but I don't know if I should be forcing my opponent to play rook e6 here. Rook e6 does appear to be a very sensible move for him. Then again, maybe it's not horrible. Wasn't knight f6 check winning the queen after queen d6? Hang on a second. No, because black can take with something that is not the bishop, and my pieces are in the wrong order, right? This is a queen in front of the rook. Yeah, rook e6 I thought I can take. And then it's kind of after de in particular, I have this move bishop e4, which I suspect my opponent may have missed. And I create the threat of queen d8 check, and now I start picking up material. Are there any advantages to castling queenside? Well, this is a very sharp Paulsen, where it's very thematic, obviously, to castle in the opposite directions, and white tries to create something on the king side. Black tries to create something on the queen side. This often happens in Sicilians. In other openings, not so much. No, the duck wasn't drunk at all. Yeah, I think he played that game quite well. I had to work really hard to stay afloat. Obviously, knight f5 is a very speculative sacrifice. I didn't need to do that. But it felt like it was an interesting attempt, and worth experimenting on. Obviously makes for a livelier game compared to some other moves I could have played. Hello, darkness, my old friend. The question from Hang GA about coaches, I won't read it in its entirety, but on the topic of chess coaching and whether there are some things that chess coaches understand better than the players. I think chess coaches give direction more than anything else. And they provide structure and direction. And also the best chess coaches do... what was I supposed to do here? I think I was just supposed to castle. They do actually provide things which, a practical player, for instance, like myself, might not be very well aware of. And of the people working right now, the two people instantly come to mind in that conversation, and those two are Iosif Dorfman and Vladimir Chuchilov. Yeah, GF, it looks strange, but it might actually be required. I think b6 was an extremely risky move. And even here, black, you should actually start developing some pieces, or at the very least, you should be taking on d4 here to make sure there are no structural changes that I can go for. And here, obviously, you cannot take with the queen because bishop g5 will capture that queen. And if black takes with the knight, I thought knight e5 may be extremely strong, creating threats of queen f3 and bishop b5 check. So on the topic of chess coaching, like both Dorfman and Chuchilov, to my understanding at least, they have created a system of thinking about chess, which is very novel and did not really exist until they have done it. I like Bishop B7. I think this is a good move. I should still be better, but that is a good move. Yeah, and d5. Now I have a very clear-cut plan of just playing knight h4, landing the queen h5 check, and I should be close to winning, I guess, because of how weak the light squares are. Yeah, Garechkina lost a position which, somewhat relevantly, there was a game in the challengers yesterday which we kept on coming back to because of just how funny that pawn structure is. The I think Ganguly versus Irvin Lamy game that was played. Some hours. It finished some hours before the Garechkina game started. And I think mainly what happened to Garechkina in that game is that, as somebody already I think correctly said in the Chess24 chat, she continued pressing past the point where she needed to stop pressing. She continued playing for a win when it was a lot more sensible. I can win the exchange here with queen h5, bishop g6. But that's very ugly. I'm looking for a way to stop my opponent from castling, or at least to make castling queenside here very unattractive. And I'm actually failing, and it's upsetting me. And then when she somehow drifted into a position which she needed to defend properly, it was already, like, I think, closing in on the second time trouble and then the third time trouble, and I'm assuming she just got tired and she started making very uncharacteristic for her technical mistakes, and yeah, the game just went completely off the rails for her at that point. It's very sad that I have to make moves like this, but I really don't want black castling queenside here. It's annoying me a great deal that I played a4, a6, queen e2 in this position. I'll tell you that much for nothing. I should probably... Oh, actually, I don't have to speed up because my opponent has to speed up, and that's an unusual feeling for me. It's normally me who has to shut up and make moves, but... it's a very comfortable position for me because I'm stopping him from making the one move he badly needs to make here. And frankly, I think this is now lag. This is not, nobody actually thinks for his entire time limit and not makes a move here. This has to be lag. So yeah, a very painful defeat for Alexandra in that game, and that frankly makes her a huge underdog in the match because she's now one behind with 3 to go, and also 2 of those 3 will be with the black pieces. So it's suddenly really not fun at all for her. It was very, very close up to this point, and I mean it's still only a one-game match, obviously, but she has now, after a painful loss like this, she has now to be a very serious underdog. New shows you would recommend? Yeah, I mean, obviously Fleabag. Apart from Fleabag, honestly, not a lot. Not a lot that I have seen recently that I would heartily recommend. I was actually told what I'm supposed to do in this line very recently, and I have forgotten already. First of all, I don't think it's f4. I think it's supposed to be bishop g5 first. But I'm guessing it all gets it all evens out. Now white goes knight a3, and there's some kind of theory here, which yeah, I don't really know. I really don't. Killing Eve season 1, yeah, specifically because of Phoebe, Killing Eve is watchable, but I think, yeah, and I missed that. I was really hoping for, hang on a second, do I have something clever here? Probably not. Yeah, this is a line where it kind of pays to know theory, because I am now forced to defend this endgame, which I assume should be a draw, but it's a draw that I will have to make. And rook a8 runs into rook takes c7, which is very annoying. I mean, I should probably still be somehow able to hold this. And as I say this, I think that rook d7 is just a lot stronger than I anticipated. Yeah, this is one of those lines which at some point you should just sit down, and learn. And I have never actually done that. This is actually a mistake, I think, king f2, because now he cannot play rook takes f7. This is specifically why I played d3. Because although he has king e3 and rook f2 there, yeah, no, this is not a mistake. I apologize to my opponent. But my point was that rook takes f7 is now a check. But he does have takes, king e3, rook c2, rook f2, and I cannot really move there, and I'm probably actually in quite a bit of trouble. This is all very annoying. This is all more than a little annoying. Yeah, this is the correct decision by my opponent, and I honestly just don't see how I equalize here. I feel like I'm just much worse. Yeah, h5 rook f5 was maybe the instantly very, very bad for me, but I didn't get punished for it. But all in all, as I said, this is the opening where it definitely pays to at some point actually learn what theory says, and not have to guess every single game. Now I should be making a draw, honestly. This is no longer this much of a problem. This is no longer really any kind of a problem at all, frankly. As long as I don't lose my mind, which hopefully I will not do. e5 rook h6 actually is something I should be paying attention to, right? King should be on g7 is what I mean. I will never put it on f7 again. This is a big mistake to have the king on f7. Yeah, this has been a close shave, and of course there's absolutely no no call for white to suddenly make the entire king side make the entire queen side disappear here. There's absolutely no reason for white to allow me this rook c1, rook a1 counterplay. This has to be a very very straightforwardly winning endgame. I mean, his king is more active than mine. He has a healthy extra pawn. It's just a bad endgame. Wasn't rook c2 winning at some point? Well, winning for him, yes, but not for me. The thing is, I didn't play rook c2 first, but even here, rook f2 is the issue, because the king just doesn't get to e5, and he is actually threatening to take on c2 and play king g2, and the king is in time to return. So no, rook c2 was not was not winning. And yeah, rook f5 after h5 was probably the easiest way to just put the game completely to bed. h5 was a bit of a brain fade. Like here you kind of resign because you cannot play without the h5 pawn as well, and you obviously cannot trade on f5. Okay, mental note. Say to yourself, you must learn how to play against castles knight f6 d4, and then never do it anyway. Do we know who that player was? I think you can look at the profile. I didn't check, but yeah, I mean, level of play, rating on Chess24, all those things suggest that this is somebody who is pretty good. Don't exactly know who. And Cthulhu asks, are you two pensioners? I do not know what that is in relation to, but I would like to say yes, I am definitely a pensioner of some sort. A pensioner of some description. Okay, this seems to be a theme of today's banter. People playing this specific line against me. Maybe e4 is what white is supposed to be doing here. I don't know. Like I generally nobody plays e6 in this position. I think theory these days is leaning very much in favor of like d6, or I think maybe even knight f6, but not e6. And maybe this is exactly the reason why. I wouldn't be horribly surprised. I think we've had this position in a previous game as well. And I'm being informed that it's an international master guild as Goldstein. So yeah, a titled player, and quite clearly from the way he played that game, a strong player. What is my opinion about Nikita's resignation decision against Magnus? I'm exactly the person to ask, obviously, because I have resigned in equal material positions in my life before yesterday, and I have been sort of roundly criticized for it, but I can definitely relate. The position is just horrible to look at, and you just don't believe you will ever save it, is I think the biggest issue. Is not that Nikita believed that it will necessarily collapse in the next 5 minutes. He just didn't believe that anything in that position could happen that would make him save it. And I think the fact that machine gives white +2 in a position where there is material equality, and actually after queen h7 white doesn't win any material for a while, should kind of tell you everything you need to know. This is a move I completely missed, and a very good move, actually. I'm lucky I have rook b8, rook b2, otherwise my position would be completely ruined by my decision to play d5, but even so, this is a very smart decision by my opponent, which... this wasn't a very smart decision by my opponent, though. This just loses the knight on d4. This is a very strange decision by somebody who made a ton of very sensible moves up to that point. Who would I pick as a favorite to win the candidates? Well, everybody stands a chance, but I think anybody who says that the pair of Caruana and Ding aren't the favorites are just trying to be fancy and not really being very very truthful, because I mean, on any kind of current form, those two, I want to play knight f5, knight e3, but it's kind of, once again, it's a bit FPS-y, but maybe I should anyway, because it does give up the bishop on c8. I wanted to play bishop d7, and I was also wondering why my opponent isn't resigning, But bishop d7, queen c7 is actually a little bit awkward. Okay. No, I think Magnus will have a very clear appreciation that he's playing somebody who is very strong. And yeah, I don't think Firouzja in general does a lot of, you know, being scared. It's just not the way he approaches chess in general. But I don't think there will be overestimate. I don't think Magnus will overestimate Firouzja. I think he will approach that game as a game against somebody who is A, clearly a very strong player, and B, clearly on very, very good form in the tournament they're playing. Which is, yeah, okay, you always take on c8 here. Like, however bad the position after knight takes c8 is, in your opinion, you always take, because otherwise you're just playing a position a full piece down. This is not really a decision at all. Like, you absolutely must play knight g6 takes c8 here. And yes, I am probably winning after knight e3, or maybe first rook b2 and then knight e3, but it just doesn't matter, because otherwise you resign, and here maybe I can mix something up. I mean, you can definitely resign in the +2 positions, Abdu. I don't think that's a statement that I agree with. f4. Okay. Let's go. Even better. Even better. Let's see if I can remember anything at all from the years I've actually spent preparing for Alexei Fyodorov. I think I'm supposed to start with d6 here. And then bishop g7. But I'm not entirely sure. This is where some kind of g3 often happens. I don't really know what this queen e1 move is all about, frankly. It gives me additional time to develop my stuff, and doesn't feel like a move that white absolutely needed to make. I'm slightly surprised by this. And now I can just sort of develop normally, and -2 is what I call a successful opening, says Mr. Dodgy. Yeah, exactly. I know that feeling. But yeah, on the topic of candidates, anybody clearly stands a chance, but I think two people have to be very clear-cut favorites there. This is a bit of a cheeky tactic, which I think my opponent should probably have should have paused a little bit and asked himself, why am I blundering a piece in one move? Because by playing d4, d5, he just killed off his entire initiative in one move. Like, now there is nothing left. The bishop is dead, the dark squares are secure, I have this monstrous bishop on e5, it's just, there's no game left anymore. Whereas, actually, if he plays something like bishop d3 here, there is actually still a game going on, because I still need to figure out where to castle, and my pieces are slightly bunched together. But here, there's really not a game left anymore. MVL and Alexeyenko are playing in Gibraltar for the memes. Yeah, all of the memes. Gear evening candidates will mean that we will enjoy the absolute golden age of chess Twitter for like half a year, but after saying 5 times there isn't a game on here anymore, I should now actually convert this into a full point, or it will be slightly embarrassing, right? Let's just give up this exchange and give mate. I think this is probably the way to go here. Who do I think would have more chances against Magnus? This is actually also a very difficult debate because, I mean, Fabi has had experience and Fabi came very, very close. I mean, the tiebreak wasn't very close, but the match itself was extremely close. But Ding has actually won a couple of tiebreaks against Magnus, and in general seems to be holding his own against Magnus in the shorter time controls, which is definitely not the case with Fabi. Bishop f3, bishop e2 is what I missed originally, and it kind of annoys me. I have queen g5 there. Took me a while to spot, but yeah, and if the queen goes somewhere, I should be able to get all of my ducks in a row here somehow. Yeah, the intention was to play this move here. Maybe knight f4 is even stronger, but I wanted to play knight h4 here. And I thought it was crushing, but he does have queen e2 in reply. This is obviously what I get for. This is obviously what I get for saying that my position is completely winning earlier, and I mean it was, but this is quite clearly punishment for sort of overstating just how over the game was. I mean it's back to being completely over now, thankfully. But for a second there, I was very worried. For a second there, I was very worried because I kind of tuned out and then gave up material for nothing. And yeah, outside of the two people who are obvious kind of hot favorites for it, pretty much everybody else has a chance. I don't think anybody of the remaining 6 players is a standout. Candidate to win. Like Jan had a good year, but also Grishuk had a very good year and seems to have been playing really, really well. And I mean, everybody definitely has a shot there. I think I'm supposed to take now. I think knight f6 is not something they do very often, but I am now wondering why. Is it because of this? I wish I could remember anything at all. That would be really useful in many cases. It's bizarre. Yeah, I'm obviously very much behind the idea of Grishuk winning the candidates as a lifelong friend. Definitely not e4 though. You have to play e4 here. There's no way this is correct. Because here I just have, like, my extra pawn is not, it's not just a healthy extra pawn, it will be on e6, which is really not great for my opponent. But yeah, in terms of actually winning the eventual match against Magnus, I think that statement about nobody of Magnus's generation beating him is a bit harsh, but not entirely untrue. I think there's definitely some truth to that. I haven't played this particularly well, actually. I should have done some things differently here. Because this is now a tricky position. I'm not even sure if I'm better. It's once again, trying to keep track of what you guys are saying. Also, why am I allowing 94 so happily? Maybe I didn't have a choice, but why am I doing it? Bishop g8 obviously is huge help for me, allowing bishop f4. He should have played 94 the moment he had the option. But yeah, trying to keep track of chat and try not to lose the train of thought in my long-winded replies to things. I often sort of tune out if my position is very good, and it happened again here. I thought this was winning, but it's actually a lot less winning than I assumed. Not really playing very well today. I seem to be somehow skating by the skin of my teeth, but honestly not really playing well at all today. I could take on a6, but I want to put the queen on a more active square, and now I realize that I still, for some reason I was absolutely sure I will have a reply to 94, and I still don't, amazingly. What am I doing today? It is quite remarkable just how poorly I've been doing so far. Like, I want to take on g7, but I have a feeling it loses. Just very, very upsetting. I really hate playing bad chess. It annoys me greatly. And rook takes e6 is a bad move. He should have taken with the queen. He should have gone for the endgame. The endgame is ever so slightly better for me, but really nothing much. And to think that, we got here from, let's say, here, where I could just continue developing, like knight c3, bishop g5. I didn't need to do any of these things. And looks like I will end up winning this game anyway, but yeah, feel very disappointed in myself. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Peter is having one of those days. Yeah, exactly. I mean, considering that I'm having one of those days, it's I mean, I've actually scored a decent amount of points here. Whoops, that would have been a costly pre-move failure. But it didn't happen, luckily. I was pretty sure knight takes e7 was pre-moved, and then it somehow didn't appear on my screen. On my screen. I'm not mad, just disappointed. Do you have a passive-aggressive relationship with yourself? Definitely. Have had one for years. That is definitely a thing. My king falls says, when I have one of those days, I drop 100 points. Yeah, when I have one of those days, I normally drop like 10 buy-ins and go on monkey tilt. But basically, my chess autopilot is still functioning. It's a much stronger autopilot than I have in other games. Do I know if my commentary on the 2012 Anand Gelfand match can be found on the internet? Most things can be found on the internet, but I wouldn't know how to search for it. I mean, there should be a way, I guess, to locate it somewhere. Maybe go through Chesscast. Maybe Chesscast has an archive somewhere, because I'm pretty sure it has been produced by Chesscast. I can ask my contacts who are organizing the match in Moscow, and maybe they know, but I don't think I can do it quickly enough to provide you with an answer. Although, doing it live on twitch.tv, as Savage would say. Hang on a second, let me just ask. Okay, the game finally started. Providing public service here. Typing on my phone when my clock, while my clock is ticking down. I apologize for that 10 seconds of dead air, but I promise you it will not happen again. How did I get into chess? I got into chess by sort of the normal way for a Soviet kid. I was shown the game by my dad, and when I was 7, I went to school, and simultaneously with school, I went to the district pioneer house to start studying chess. Let's call it studying. I don't know what I'm doing here. G4 is decent, but also long castles followed by knight takes b5 is now a constant thing that I have to worry about. I really don't like my approach here. I feel like it's just completely wrong. Like, I'm really, like, once he castles queenside, which he will, I really don't know how I'm supposed to meet the threat of knight takes b5. Like, I put my pieces on. What was my father's rating? My father wasn't very good. Like, in today's rating, he would be something like, I don't know, 1700 maybe. He studied just as I did. He studied in a pioneer's house when he was young, and then he just gave up and went to do other things. Yeah, I really dislike what I've done to my position here. Is chess still a big thing like it was in Soviet Union? It's never going to be as big as it was during the Soviet times, but it's still reasonably big. Did I ever almost quit chess when I was younger, asks Bern420. No, that's not a thing that happened. And that actually is, like, these days I've become, some kind of an elder statesman. So they do occasionally ask me to, like, give talks to parents and so on. And this is one of the things I tell the parents when they ask if sort of how do you determine if your child has to continue studying chess or if it's maybe time to quit. And I think the most reliable way to tell is if there's at any point, and we're talking about like young kids to like early teenagers, probably even before they become teenagers. If at any point during that period it becomes not a fun thing to do for them, it's probably time to stop, would be my general guideline. And I did all this basically to stop him from playing knight a4. Like, this specific setup, returning to the game, is I'm trying to make sure that after b5 he does not have the move knight a4. He does have the move knight g5, which might be very strong, in particular after king b1, because on the previous move, like if he goes knight g5 here, I have knight takes b3 as an intermediary check. But with the king on b1, I will actually have to take on d5, and then he will have very good attacking chances in the center. But if he goes away, and now I have a6, a5, and this bishop is in trouble. At least I've achieved this. So yeah, on the previous topic, like one of my children is kind of trying to become a concert pianist. And there are a lot of similarities between sort of high-end studying of music and high-end studying of chess. But the one thing that is remarkably different, why didn't I take on e4 first? Is a question I do not have an answer to. It's probably because I'm an idiot. One thing that is markedly different is studying music involves a lot of basically repetition. You just do the same thing over and over again until you master it. And there's absolutely no way around it. Whereas chess, even when you are trying to become better, even when you take it seriously, at the heart remains a board game. And so basically, it is something that could be your life's work. It is something that if you become good enough, you will get paid for doing, and so on and so forth. But it's still a board game where you can beat people. And every single game is somewhat different. You know, in some cases it will be very, very different, but in general, every single game differs greatly from the previous one. So there is absolutely no excuse for being bored with it. So if your child at some point says, "Yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. It doesn't really appear to bring me any joy," I think it's a very, very good giveaway that it's probably time to stop. And in the meantime, I somehow won a piece and am now sort of on cruise control, but I think my position was quite dodgy at some point. Yeah, no, music obviously is a fantastically creative field of endeavor, chef master. No one is arguing against that, but it does involve, in particular, let's say the piano, which is what I now live with on a daily basis. And I'm also a son of a trained concert pianist, so I have some exposure to this. It does involve a lot of very samey mechanical work. I just won a castle kingside. Allowing knight g3, knight f5 probably wasn't very bright, but I am a piece up. So won a piece, he threw it at you. That's fair, Jubail. That's fair. Okay, we need to start thinking about how many more games we can fit in, because I should probably stop the stream in half an hour-ish to make to kind of leave enough time for the preparations for the Gustafsson versus Eduard Banter Blitz. Peter giving out the great life lessons, yeah. Not sure if serious.jpg. Jan is playing his Banter Blitz Cup match later today. Pretty much immediately after this, basically. Do top chess players have girls or wives? Well, I mean, some do, some don't. There's no universal rule. Now, probably after knight a3, I am like in incredibly big trouble. I just completely missed knight a3. The entire concept is extremely risky, but allowing knight a3 in this position is just, yeah. And this is a very large amnesty, queen g2. I'm probably still worse, but it's a sort of a large-scale amnesty that my opponent has provided me with. Is there a puzzle-like exercise for strategic plays as opposed to tactics? I don't know if there are many courses universally available, but definitely somebody like Dvoretsky would have a lot of strategic puzzles as well as tactical ones in his collection. And apparently I did not need to type WhatsApp messages live on air, because Martin Benedict, as usual, does a better job of most things that I could ever dream of. And thanks to Martin for providing the needed direction about the 2012 videos. What makes a good Blitz player? I think mainly very good instincts. Like you need to have a very good underlying understanding of where pieces belong and so on, because you will not be able to calculate very precisely, or calculate very long lines very often in Blitz. So you have to trust your instinct and your intuition a lot in Blitz, and to trust your intuition, you have to build up a very sound understanding of the basics. Yeah, I'm still worse, but this is, I think, not as poor as my position could have been. I could still get mated by g4, g5 at some point. On the topic of PLO, Pinati Pro, yeah, I still play, although not as much as I used to. But basically, I was more or less retired, and then Phil opened Run It Once, and Phil, the voice of Phil has been so much, a very vital part of my life for so many years, that I felt that not opening a Run It Once account and not giving some money to Phil would be a mistake. Define intuition, says Fedorovich. I think we're entering this phase in the conversation where, like the conversations you have with like 3- and 4-year-old children, where every next answer will be answered by the further "but why," and that never ends. And it doesn't feel like a very productive use of my time. Yeah, as I said, I could still very easily just get mated on the king side here. Despite somewhat stabilizing. Yeah, I don't actually have a good answer to this, sadly for me. I can pretend, but I don't actually have a good answer. I'm just sort of busted here. Knight h5 is very strong, but also just hg is perfectly fine. There's really no reason for my opponent not to pick that pawn up and go from there. Yeah, getting a bit destroyed here. I'm kind of trying in vain to find any kind of justification for my, let's call it pawn sacrifice, which it really isn't. And yeah, there's just none. Yeah, and as I mentioned, knight h5 is also quite strong, but here at least there is no immediate mate as far as I can see. And yeah, I mean, the position remains horrible, but I'm somewhat alive. In particular, if I can get to play rook e5 next move. I think f3, f4 might be... yeah, and this is a mistake. This is a mistake, quite clearly. And rook e5 had to be stopped in general, because I want to drive away the knight from h5 and play knight g7 f6, and then I will just be fine. But playing rook g7 and actually losing that knight on h5 is, of course, just very, very wrong. Yeah, intuition comes from a huge amount of past experience. Drop mic, yeah. You are not wrong. You are not wrong. Yeah, this is probably the best shot that he has, but it should not be enough. I should still pay attention though. Like, it would be very embarrassing for me to go badly wrong here. But I feel in particular this, whoops, almost played bishop f5 here, which would have been stupid because it drops the rook on h5. I didn't expect bishop e2 to happen. Yeah, but now that I've either traded or driven away the rook from g8, my position is just completely winning. But basically here you go hg7, knight e5, you go bishop e2, and I tried, you know, like I would like to do something like this, but the thing is it just doesn't work at all, like king g3 or something. I just don't have enough attackers here to create even a slight, you know, hint of counterplay. And if I don't play knight g4 check, if I play something like bishop f5, he just goes rook hg1, and eventually I will still get mated on the king side, but also I'm now 2 pawns down. So yeah, well, not a great position I had out of the opening in this one, but I somehow tricked my way out. Oh, I definitely do have the Twitch chat open, not the YouTube chat though. That's a scary and dark place. I seem to be playing e4 exclusively today for whatever reason. I don't really know why. Let's maybe... Boo! Why would you do that? But I insist. Come on. Oh, come on, no. And his position is actually completely fine. This is the issue with actually after knight takes e4 he might be much better. Jesus. Yeah, this is a very cute trick that not very many people know. You can take on e4 here, knight takes e4, queen e7, and actually lose this knight on e4. That would have been quite something after all the booing and the scorn I've poured on my opponent for not accepting the gauntlet. To just not equalize out of the opening here would be quite something. Does my opening tier list change based on the time control, or would you argue that the strength of the opening is independent of the clock? No. There's definitely a change depending on, like, good openings don't become bad, but bad openings become playable. Is the most important and the most obvious difference. Bad openings definitely become quite playable at the shorter time controls, because your opponent doesn't actually have the time to properly refute them. And I habitually play all kinds of nonsense in Blitz tournaments. I was kind of planning to take on g7 and go knight f6 check here, but that endgame is really not very much. And now I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Because if I don't, the knight just gets driven back. I think I'm actually supposed to do this. And And now I'm supposed to pretend I'm better somehow. So there's so there's hope for my Alekhins. No, Alechin has been like a perfectly. Rook e8 is a mistake actually, because this knight he should have actually paid some attention to what I'm doing. I'm not just randomly making pointless moves here. The knight actually appears to be lost now because of FG. Yeah, the thing about the Alechin is that nobody really cares enough to study it properly. But the two times I played the Bunratzi Open in Ireland, I twice had to prepare for white games against Alexander Baburin, and I just couldn't find anything at all against the Alechin. It shocked me. I couldn't believe my eyes. But like I spent serious times on preparation because I think both years those games were kind of important in the context of the tournament standings, and I actually cared. And I think one of them was because Bunratzi is played like you play, I think, one round on Friday and then 3 and 2 on Saturday and Sunday, I think. And we were playing round 5 on Sunday, which means we were playing in the morning, and the pairings were known overnight. So I could actually prepare sort of calmly for quite a bit. And I invested a decent amount of time trying to refute the opening and just completely failed. And also on a more serious note, Mr. Dodgy in the Chess24 chat says, some good openings become bad. I think the Berlin score is a lot worse in Blitz. Yeah, that does make some sense, certainly. Randomly making pointless moves is Lawrence's autobiography, says Fedorovich. It's very nice to see the tradition of firing shots at Lawrence remains, continues unabated, even when he is not there and not really paying any attention. Okay, we're at 1722, so we're probably playing 2 more, or maybe 3 more if I find good 3-minute challenges. Yeah, and Dodgy says, one serious comment, 20 fair jokes incoming. I assume you are beating the algorithm by typing it this way? That's very smart. That's proper moderation right there. Showing the people in chat how to defeat the algorithm. And yeah, thanks for the bits, Chelsea Monica. I'd be sad to learn that much of chess is based on studying beforehand, says Three Shoes. Well, I mean, I sort of understand the sadness, but you probably don't have to up to a certain level, and that level will be, I think, reasonably high. I think you can get by just putting a lot of practice in. Your first, I don't know, 3 years of improving, they would be made a lot easier by you studying theory, but you can still definitely kind of sail by just by putting a decent amount of practice in. I used to play this line a lot when I was younger, and now I don't remember a single thing, apart from the fact that this is extremely dangerous. And I could just be lost now to be bishop takes h7, queen h5, and rook f3. But I hope not. Or just f5 now, frankly. I'm sort of a couple of moves away from consolidating and not worrying anymore. But those couple of moves will be very, very, squeaky bum time. Because it is just so easy for black to get completely destroyed here. In the center and on the king's side. E6, EF5, EF7 though wasn't what I was worried about. I was mainly worried about some kind of rook f5 or bishop f5, just continuing to throw pieces at me. By playing e6 ef, what my opponent achieved was basically he connected my pieces, and my rook on f7 is now participating in the defense. Spielmacher says, I always challenge, never been picked. The list is very, very long, and I apologize, and I understand it's frustrating, but the list is always like 50 challenges long every time I do one of these, and I do try to pick new usernames, but I don't often succeed. I don't always succeed, is what I mean to say, and also I do somewhat prefer the higher rated challenges because I feel they provide, I feel like they provide the most educational value. I was worried I blundered bishop c4, but bishop c4 wasn't actually winning in that position, and now this guy on b7 is also alive and will create problems for my opponent. So yeah, I appreciate that this is an issue that people have, that it's very possible to be on the challenge list for a number of Banter Blitzes and never actually get picked. But in order to go through the list, I would have to make them like 8 hours long, and I genuinely don't have the energy for it. And also today we genuinely don't have time because we need to kind of vacate the stream for the Banter Blitz Cup. Whoops, apologies. Too much scrolling. Who's playing today in the Cup, says Ordinary Twitch name. Jan is playing against Romain Edouard. So it's a very very high level duel today. The Chess24 tech dude is playing today, says Giles Corey. Exactly. Yeah, I should have made more progress here. It's a bit annoying that my opponent is sort of still in the game here, but we will endeavor to do something about it. How much time would you say an improving player should invest into studying / practice? Well, define improving player, but I mean, the general rule of thumb with like any human endeavor would be as much time as you can afford. The more the better. It should be like it should be structured training. Like if you just play Bullet online, it probably won't improve your game all that much. But structured training of any sort, the more you can fit in without disrupting your life outside of chess, the better, obviously. And as I said, like in the early years, just playing a lot will progress your game a great deal. Master Peter, do you have any expectations toward Villeneuve's Dune? I was not aware that was a thing. I will now Google what, I mean, if you could explain what that is, it would be quite helpful. I actually played a lot of the Rouser, Richter Rouser with black when I was a kid, and I used to play a6 h6 bishop e7 mainly, but my coach Andrei Lukin, he played all kinds of Rousers, and he taught me how to play the opening as well. This is exactly what, although I think actually my opponent has done this. He's sort of outsmarted me here a little bit, because I just took on b5 without thinking. It was very strong on the previous move, but with the inclusion of bishop d7 and g4, in particular because I played g4, like, why am I such a... I'm very annoyed at myself again. The muttering at myself will now resume, because it's extremely important in these endgames, which are very typical Rouser endgames. It's extremely important to have the pawn on g2, because then your structure on the king side cannot be challenged. And by playing g4, I created the weakness on f3 for myself, which he can actually immediately exploit by taking on e5, taking on d6 and playing knight e5. And I'm actually, I think, extremely lucky that I don't have to resign against that, because I think I can play rook f1, knight c4, rook d3, and I don't lose. But my position instantly becomes very, very unpleasant here. And now I'm wondering if maybe I can convince myself to play something else, because without that bishop on e3, like, there's no way I can ever have full compensation. And the most annoying thing about all this is that I know this. It's like, this is something that has been drummed into me, and this is kind of hard-earned knowledge that I don't need to normally to reaffirm or to not forget, but I did just blitz out. Instead of g4, you can play, I mean, if in this position I play king b1 and he goes b5, bishop takes b5 is very, very strong. But I still played g4 for no reason whatsoever. Really don't like being an idiot. And yeah, now we are kind of struggling for equality. And apparently Dune is a full length feature based on the books, which is obviously interesting and something I would watch, but I don't know how well it will be done. I should play h4 at some point to make sure that my king side doesn't get destroyed so easily. But yeah, I mean, we're much, much worse here. Like, just a bad position, frankly. Yeah, g5 is one of the ways to exploit what I'm doing. I'm wondering if I can go knight d5 check and somehow distract my opponent sufficiently. I'll try. I mean, the position is bad enough that I should start trying things which normally aren't very good. But you have the three queens. The queens are very far away, and you really do need a dark squared bishop here to support the push. Like, I mean, the sacrifice is a very valid thing to do, just not after you play g4, is my point. And here I'm sort of hoping that some kind of before c5 check played as early as possible. Like, I'm hoping I will be able to play before and c5 check more or less instantly here. And then maybe I will have enough counterplay. I don't quite like this move. I think it's... Although, I mean, there's definitely a point to it, but I think allowing me to play before here is probably not the best option he has. But black still remains much better. But at least, I will get somewhere. My pawns will actually make some progress. No, this has not been um, the best sequence for my opponent at all. I think he was much better, and now he no longer is maybe better at all even, which is quite remarkable considering how poor my position was. Now these guys actually do run, and I mean, once they start running, they represent a very significant threat. After fe4, he should have played king e5 here. It was very important for him to play king e5 in this position to stop exactly what happened in the game. But I'm guessing he missed the idea of e5, knight e5, c5, which is possible to miss. And this probably will be the last game of the show, because I really do need to wrap this up to allow for people to set up the next show properly. Yeah, it's just very, very difficult for him to stop these guys marching. I will just take and start pushing. Rook f3 is played to stop knight e5. I didn't really need to play rook f3, but it does feel like it's a good idea to include this move, to make sure that this, actually probably h3 on this move was winning on the spot, but I mean the position is definitely good enough now to do more or less whatever I please. This is just a queen now, actually. It's a remarkable turnaround. This should not have happened. Okay, let's just continue pushing the guys. There's just too many of them. I can do it. I mean, I should have played, well, I could have played b6 on the previous move, but we'll do it now. I do see the Twitch chat, but for that particular game, it felt to me like I needed to concentrate after just playing g4, bishop takes b5. I felt like I didn't want to finish on a losing note, and I felt like I needed to start thinking about my moves actually. But I am here, and I've been keeping an eye on this chat as well. Did I miss anything important here? Apart from the pawn storm let's go emote, which I haven't seen before. One more game says forget about it. Nah, sorry, I actually do need to stop here. So on that note, thanks for everybody for tuning in. Seemed like a fun enough banter, although as usual, I'm very sharply critical of at least some of the decisions I've taken today. And as already mentioned, there's a Banter Blitz Cup coming up, I think, on this channel as well, and definitely on the Chess24 website, which I would encourage all the people in the Twitch chat to check out. There are also some deals currently available. There are discounts on becoming premium and so on and so forth. #sellout. So yeah, thanks everybody for watching. There's now going to be some additional banter action, and we will return tomorrow at the usual time, 1:30 p.m. Central European, to continue covering the Vaikanzea tournament. And tomorrow is the day to tune in, because tomorrow we will finally see Alireza Firouzja playing against Magnus Carlsen. Have I tried TFT? That's the question I need to address. No, I only ever played of the auto battlers. I obviously play a lot of battlegrounds, and I have played quite a bit of Underlords, but not TFT. Life is only so long. I can't really fit all the things I want to try in terms of gaming into it. Anyway, Thanks for everybody who was here to watch, and tune in tomorrow for White Crown Date. See you then.